we have now, and recording is in progress, so let's go ahead and kick it off. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We're really excited to be able to share some of the upcoming things that are happening at Habitat for Humanity. In particular, some of the new programs that we're looking to expand upon the great work that we're doing in the community. Before we jump in, let me just introduce myself. I'm Chris Wiseman. I'm the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity of Chester County. I have been in my role for a little over a year. I started right as the pandemic was hitting into full force. So lived through a full year of virtual and then finally back and now back into the community, which I could not be more happy about. I have about 25 years of experience working in nonprofits, most of that with the YMCA and working in Chester County. I worked at the Airport Road facility in Westchester and for several years as the executive director at the Brandywine YMCA. So I could not be more excited to be back in Chester County, back into a community that I know well and serving a community and area that I just love. So I also want to introduce one of our board members who's going to be a part of the presentation tonight, Elliot Flick. Elliot, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, folks. I'm Elliot Flick. That's a nice picture of me, Chris, working on one of our houses. Yeah, I am the Vice President of Engineering for Exelon Generation. So we're the owner of the Philadelphia Electric Company and a number of other electric companies. By day, I spend my time in the nuclear power industry generating electricity, and during my spare time, for more than 20 years now, Habitat for Humanity's been basically one of my go-to charities that I've loved taking teams of employees on home builds and other things like that in order to kind of feed my passion for affordable housing and doing things that we can to help keep people in their homes longer when their homes become in a state of disrepair. So I guess I've been on the board with Habitat in Chester County for the last 2 years, and I'm leading the Rehabilitation and Repair Committee. I'm also on the committee that is called Family Services, where we select families that have the opportunity to purchase the homes that Habitat builds. And most recently, I've been nominated as the secretary of the board. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Elliot. And Elliot has really been, and Exelon as well, just a huge amount of resource and donor and appreciation, just everything that you guys do and continue to support the mission in the organization, whether it's swinging a hammer or bringing groups out to participate, it really makes a big difference. Thank you. As I mentioned, we're going to focus in on those programs that Elliot was talking about, the home rehabilitation and critical home repair. And I know that we have a number of municipalities that have some representatives there. So I also want to make sure that we focus as we talk about those, specifically how we can partner with all the different municipalities and boroughs and townships in our community as we move forward, and the ways that we can really serve one another to make sure that we're giving back to the community in the most specific ways that helps with your neighborhood revitalization and your pathways towards improving your community. Before we jump into that, however, I just want to take a couple minutes to just explain a little bit about Habitat for Humanity, just for those on the call that maybe doesn't know exactly how we work, what our history is. So bear with me, I'll give you just the quick brief history. What I often hear about Habitat for Humanity is that you give away homes and it was founded by Jimmy Carter. Neither one of those things are correct. Jimmy Carter was and still is a great supporter of Habitat, but it actually began in the 1940s in a farm off just outside of a town called Americus, Georgia. It was a time when things were very segregated, but in this community, it was very interracial. It was actually called radical inclusivity at the time. Because of how they treated each other, they actually were excommunicated. The members of this community were excommunicated from their church, but would later have civil rights leader Martin Luther King come and visit them and send them a letter of support for all the great work that they were doing. In 1965, Linda and Millard Fuller, the eventual founders of Habitat, visited the farm to learn more about this vision that they had and this shared humanity. And they would go on to create what we call the partnership housing model, which we'll talk about in a second. And that's that really critical piece of volunteers working side by side with homeowners to build these decent, affordable housing. And in 1973, the Fullers would take this idea to Africa and create this international organization that we know now as Habitat for Humanity. So the way home ownership works is the way that it's worked really since our very early days. And we really focus in on that, on the most important component, which is respecting the dignity of the person. We really want to make sure that we're partnering in a way that is lifting up, give everybody a hand up, not a handout. So as I mentioned, homes are not free. We provide a 0% 30-year mortgage. To qualify to be a homeowner, you have to be in what the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, considers to be low income for Chester County. But because Chester County is such a wealthy county, that could possibly be a mom of 3 kids making $60,000 a year. And what we've come to find is those are the individuals that we've been calling our essential workers, right? They're the teachers, the nurses, the fire and the police officers that serve our community. And probably the key component, and again, since day one, it's always been an important part, is the sweat equity. We require all of the adults on the mortgage to complete 200 hours of work on the site with volunteers, with our construction staff, giving them that investment into the home they're moving into, but even as important, giving them the skills to be able to maintain that home over time. And so what we find is that they not only are they good homeowners, they become good neighbors. They really understand what it means to be in a home, to maintain it, and to be able to stay in that home for years to come. You know, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past with some of the other meetings that I've had, but I think it's worth reiterating how critically important this benefit of home ownership is. And study after study, you know, shows that it is the pathway to the middle class, right? We know that owning a home helps people come out of poverty, right? It creates these financial resources and ultimately creates generational changes. You know, there's greater educational attainment, whether that's performance in math and science, other things. The future earnings for someone who owns a home and children who grew up in a home that's owned is much higher. And we know the graduation rate and the post-secondary education graduation rates are all higher and attained at a much greater level for homeowners. And lastly, and really important too, is we know incidents of crimes and the risk of assault are greatly less for someone who owns their home. And so, you know, it's that critical piece of moving someone from renting, from being in a place that's not necessarily stable, to owning a place that they can call their own, and then leveraging that through the equity that they build, through the decent affordable housing that exists around them, because we do more than just their one home. We start to raise all communities, and it creates this generational change that affects everyone. We are going to always continue to do what we do really well, which is build new homes, but we're going to talk about the other programs we do in a second. But I think it's really important to mention the 2 big projects that we have right now, one being Cambria Terrace up in Coatesville. And those that know that area, it used to be the Oak Street housing project, an eyesore, a danger, a crime-infested space on the top of that hill. It was raised and taken down, and was working with a for-profit builder who fell through, and Habitat was asked to come in, worked closely with the city of Coatesville and the Chester County Economic Development, and we were able to create this really amazing opportunity to build 40 plus homes on top of that hill. And it is the truest form of what we do, working side by side with the volunteers, with homeowners, with businesses that have come in and done team builds. And we have literally transformed the landscape of Coatesville. For those that have seen it, it is no longer, you know, that stretch of sort of what was concrete and then nothing. It is now this beautiful row of homes that have now literally transformed the way that Coatesville looks. And we're very excited that we will complete our final 3 houses in this next year. So come summer of next year, we will have a giant celebration to recognize the completion of this housing community in this group that we've connected with and we're able to create in Coatesville. In the southern part of the county, we have continued to work with the USDA to be able to build homes in groups of 5, ultimately to build 40 homes in total. The first 5 homes are now complete with homeowners living in them. The second group of 5 homes is now under construction. And we now have homeowners approved for the 3rd group of 5. So we'll be starting our next phase 3, with those 5 homes in the next few months. So that project continues to just move right along. So I mentioned all of that just so that I can really highlight where we've been in the last couple of years and how that's positioned us to really move into this next phase of how Habitat wants to serve the community. We are blessed to have really done this great work and positioned ourselves to be able to expand our mission in two really critical ways. And one of those, and I'm going to talk about, is the rehabilitation model. And rehabilitation really is not that much different than what we do now with our current homeowners. So this is coming and becoming more and more important because we know that the cost of land, the availability of land in Chester County is just harder and harder to come by. And we know that also, talking to a number of leaders in municipalities across Chester County, that there is just a huge number of homes that are sitting there waiting to be transformed into affordable housing. And so the rehabilitation program will do just that. We've started talks with certain townships and boroughs, and we hope to expand that to others to really start to identify those homes in the community that have good bones and are ready for the next level to build, improve them to become Habitat homes. It is such a critical piece for what we do, but we know that it's also a really critical component to many of the neighborhood revitalizations and economic business plans for the municipalities in the county. We know that as counties, or as these boroughs and other places continue to grow, they're fighting gentrification. They're considering how much they want to invest or give away space to for-profit builders as well. And we honestly are competing with them. But when we think about what they do, the for-profit folks are purchasing land to build homes that aren't really affordable for the current homeowners that live in that area, or it's already outpricing those that are coming in from the outside. Or they're buying a property to be able to create, rental properties, multiple family housing. And it's great that it brings more people in, but those are the folks who aren't as connected to the community as homeowners. What we see in all of the homes that we build is that they're there for years after year. They're raising their kids, they're taxpayers, they're connected, they're voting, and they're doing everything they can to build up their community. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to the leadership in municipalities across the county, that's the critical piece to being able to grow your area, is having that stable family that can work in the businesses that exist in that area. Often when I speak to small businesses or other economic development groups, I tell them, you create the employment, but we can create the employees. It's wonderful that you have these businesses that need need folks to come in and work, but if they can't afford to live in the community and work in those small things, then we don't have that network, and we don't have those businesses able to thrive. So it's a really important part of what we do, and I think will be a critical part of the continual growth of Chester County and the economic development of the county. And to be clear, we're not seeking out properties for free. We are moving into that market to be able to purchase land that is there. We'll talk about a little bit later at the end. There's some questions about how that works, but partnering with these municipalities to be able to just identify the properties and giving us an opportunity to bid for those spaces. Whereas someone who's in a for-profit position to come in and change that property and try to make a certain amount of profit, we do not need to make a profit. We will take a loss on that to be able to create that affordable housing for someone who's moving in, and most likely someone who's currently living in your community, but wanting to be able to stay in that community in a house that they can afford. So more to come on that. And I just wanted to share a couple of images of what that looks like. And I think you can imagine even some of these properties in your area that you've seen that have transformed kind of from the before and the after. Right. And it's everything from not just the outside, but the inside as well. Right. It's the changes from the facade all the way through with those good bones to create a healthy and safe and affordable home. And all of these are Habitat homes from across the country. And the type of projects that we're excited to be able to come in and start in the next few months. So again, I'll just reiterate that we are seeking out those partnerships with municipalities all over the county. We are the Habitat for Humanity of Chester County. Our big projects now are in West Grove and Coatesville, but we want to be in all parts of the county, serving everyone who is in need, making sure that affordable housing continues to be at the forefront of everybody's thoughts when they're thinking about the economic development of their area. So the other critical piece is the critical home repair. I'm going to turn it over to Elliot to talk a little bit about that piece.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I can't, decide between the program you just talked about and this one on critical home repair, which one I'm more excited about. There's just incredible amount of opportunity to help people in the county. The amount of need is much greater than the amount of capability of different charities in the county to support them. So this critical home repair is all about expanding our services to do some things similar to what other chapters of Habitat do around the country, which is we provide low-income homeowners with home repair assistance that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. And we focus on primarily on safety improvements for the home and helping people to be able to stay in their house, to basically age in place, to improve their dignity, and allow them to stay in a house that they may not be able to otherwise do because of safety or other issues that are associated with the house. Um, we we select people for homes based on a couple of different criteria. The first being the family's need. So we will have our family services um, group, which currently helps to assess folks for purchasing the homes that we're building, the new homes. That group will also help us with assessing the need of a family. Would go out to their house, see what the repair needs are, what are the issues that they're dealing with, and how we might be able to help. Secondly, it's the property specifics. Essentially the property has to be owned by the person for us to engage in it. And we're typically looking for homes that are less than 2,000 square feet. So, properties that are on the smaller size that, people need significant help. And then we look at the ability of the person to pay for the repairs. And what we do there is, since we subsidize the repairs of the home based on the person's ability to pay, we look at how much income do they make, and we use a sliding scale based on the area median income in the county. And so that sliding scale will help decide what percentage of the cost of the repair the homeowner would be asked to pay. And we also subsidize the work through volunteers who will work on the property to help make the repair, which helps to keep the cost of repairs low. We also have organizations that work with us from time to time to donate materials, which are another opportunity for how we're able to keep the cost of uh, repairing the property low. So, and then the last piece is a willingness of the family to partner with Habitat for Humanity. And by that, what we mean is put in sweat equity of their own in order to help with the repairs. Now, understanding that there are people who may have disabilities and other things like that that could be a challenge to we certainly aren't going to put somebody 80 years old that's walking with disabilities on a roof of a house or something like that. But there are tons of additional opportunities for how they can get involved with Habitat for Humanity in ways that are safe and within their means in order to help, and that'll contribute towards the sweat equity commitment for critical home repair. So we are starting to actively seek out, partnerships with municipalities, with businesses, and with other charities to help us with these type of projects. And so, with regard to municipalities, some of the ideas that we have is that, if we were to work on or have a municipality identify for us particular home perhaps that has construction code violations or other things like that are a potential risk that the people would be evicted from their home, perhaps that's an opportunity where Habitat can come in and do some critical home repair work in order to help the family be able to stay in their home and address whatever the issues are. With regard to businesses, we're looking for partnerships where, not only donations, but groups can come out like my company does and do team builds to help repair a property. And businesses also have the opportunity to sponsor a family. We've had some businesses that have said, hey, this particular family's need, that's something that we'd be interested in, paying for the whole repair. And then, we can do things like that that are targeted towards, specific individual family that may be in need. And then as far as other charities, there are all kinds of other great charities within the county that we can work with, including charities like Good Works and Good Neighbors that we've been in contact with and talking with them about. There might be opportunities where we can go in together on projects like community revitalization efforts, and the different charities work together on maybe revitalizing an entire block, different things like that. So we're really excited about that. Habitat for Humanity of Chester County has set aside money in our budget this year so that this fall we can start taking applications and start the process of critical home repair. So like I said, I'm very excited about this. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I
You
think
want
we
to
got some
show some of the
examples of what
pictures
those
of,
look like. Yeah.
yeah, here's some examples of pictures with before and after. You can see here the siding was, completely repaired. The next picture, an example of how Habitat can come in and help repair a unsafe decking at a property. Next one, just showing how a bathroom might be unsafe and we can go make repairs to a bathroom. Next one. This kitchen was completely redone, so this is another example of the type of work that we can do to help a homeowner stay in their property. Next. And replacing and repairing windows. There are plenty of opportunities where we can do things for weatherization purposes in order to address cold, drafty situations in homes and improve and reduce heating costs in the winter by dealing with things like this. And I think maybe we have another one here, just another example of how we're able to refurbish can refurbish a bathroom and put in handrails and things like that and make it so that it's able to be accessed by somebody who has access needs that make it difficult to get in and out of a shower. And I think, was that it, Chris?
That's it.
Yeah, so those are some of the examples of things that we can envision ourselves doing with the critical home repair project.
I would just add on the funding side, and Elliot mentioned we'd put some funds aside this year to be able to start the program, but also a big portion of that is there are specific funding for weatherization, for seniorization, for wheelchair ramps, or things like that that may be needed in a community that we've applied for as well. So some of it may be restricted, and specific for a particular task, but others will be able to do these type of projects or meet some of those code violations in a community so that the person can continue to stay in that home. So those are the two big things that we have on the horizon. It's going to continue to be an incredible push for us to be able to do all the wonderful things we want to be able to do. We're going to continue to need the support of all of our volunteers, all of our donors. We're only going to increase that impact. I will say we had almost a record-breaking year last year with the number of new homes that we built. We will crush the record that we've had in the past this year with up to 17 or 18 new folks in the homes this year. By far, our record had been 9. On top of starting the critical home repair and hopefully doing more of these rehabilitation projects to integrate those into the current home builds. So that is what's happening in our world. We do have some questions that have come through prior to starting and a couple that have come through since we started. So again, there is a button on the top for the Q&A. So if there's anything that's come up while we've been speaking, go ahead and enter your question there. I have a couple, Elliot, I think you've seen a couple. I can start with one that is asking about how have townships worked with Habitat to identify homes for purchase already? And that's a great question. We have been invited in by several different municipalities to come and look at some of the blighted properties. Every township or borough and city is a little bit different, but there are those that have a third party organization that works with them that they have, so that the township itself is not these person selling or donating or giving away the property. So that's one avenue to explore. But again, when I mentioned in my part, is just getting Habitat into that community to be able to see what's there. We want to be in all parts of the county, being able to identify those properties early so that we can get in and even bid for those. And if there are properties and spaces that are owned, which has been the case by some of the municipalities, again, we would be happy to be the partner in that building, not just one, but even potentially multiple units to be able to change that neighborhood, that community. So more to come on that. But again, if you have those properties and those sort of those locations identified, please reach out to me directly and we'll come and explore those in more depth.
Chris, there was another one related to what kind of teaming opportunities do you see for businesses to get involved in this?
And you mentioned one great one, but I'll give a little bit more specifics on it. It's called the Team Build. And Elliot's company has come out and done several of these. A lot of the major corporations come out, schools come out and do this. And it's a sponsorship. And then we bring out a group of individuals from that company to be able to actually go on site and work with our volunteers, with the homeowners to help build the home. It's such a critical part to keeping the cost down for us to be able to have those folks that come out. And it's always a great time. We rarely have a group come out just once. Once they've come out and been able to, with no experience whatsoever, swing a hammer, haul some things around. And then what's the really special part is to leave blessings and write words of encouragement on the stairs or on the 2x4s, and know that that's going to be there behind the walls or under the carpet forever. So blessing that home. It's a really critical piece for that part of it. And Elliot mentioned too, we build homes, so in-kind donations are wonderful. We've had donations of windows, of lumber, of piping. We have electrical work, HVAC work. So anyone who has connections with those organizations and wants to donate some of the product or even the time to come in and be able to do some of that work, that's a critical piece. I mentioned, and it's probably worth maybe diving just a little bit more into the weeds, because I think it's a really important part. The homes are really high quality homes. The way that we're able to make these homes affordable is through the volunteer work, is through, being able to, we only have 3 people on our staff that actually do construction. Everything else is the volunteers and the homeowners building. The other part is that we structure our mortgage so that 0% 30-year mortgage is by far less than what the value of the home is. And then we have a forgivable part. So that homeowner is building equity right from day one with that mortgage, but also there's a forgivable amount over time that builds extra, equity into it. So if a homeowner stays in there for 15 years, they've developed really a huge resource for what will come in their future. And so all of those things together are really important to be able to kind of partner with us to make that happen.
Let's see, there was another question around the, will we perform repairs on rental properties and on mobile homes? And I guess maybe I can take that one. We are not planning on making repairs for rental properties. Really, that's the responsibility of the landlord to take care of that for people. As far as mobile homes, we would work on mobile homes in a situation where the person owns the mobile home and the property under it. So that's our view on that.
I had another question that was sort of a clarity on the rehabilitation side, asking if it would be occupied by the owner, or would Habitat acquire it, buy it in some other way, get a hold of it, related to some projects that we did in Phoenixville years ago. And the answer is it will be a brand new home for a new homeowner. So it would be an existing structure, but not anyone living in it. And there were some houses like that in the past that we did in Phoenixville when we partnered with them on a project that they were doing. So it would be very similar to that. So we would be identifying and taking back properties that are right now unoccupied, or maybe going to sheriff's sale.
Sorry. Kitty Knox asked a question for rehabilitation. Is the property occupied
I
by
think
the
that's
owner?
the one I was just getting at.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay. Okay, that's the one you were going
that
after.
is the
Gotcha.
Phoenixville model that happened in the past. Yes.
I got you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. You mentioned this, but it was another question that I saw about partnering with other organizations, especially around the critical home repair. And Ellie and I have done a lot of work in the communication with Good Works and Good Neighbors to really understand how they serve Chester County and where we would fit in that. And Elliot, you mentioned that there's more work than can be done by any 3, 4, 5, 6 organizations right now. So they welcome us into that space, and talking to their leadership, we are excited about potentially doing some partnerships with them to be able to do neighborhood revitalization, or at least just do some projects that we can, put the strength of both organizations to. And as we look ahead for funding, I mean, anytime that we go out and we look and seek those funding sources, partnerships are such a critical part to, to getting that successful grant, given to us. So we will continue to work with those organizations, the Housing Partnership, Open Hearth, and many others in the county. Did you have any other questions that came up on your end?
No, nothing on my end, Chris.
Well, I just want to wrap up by thanking Elliot for being a part of this today and really leading this whole new front for what our organization is trying to tackle. We've done this in the past, so it's not as if we're gritting into it brand new, but it is not something we've done recent. And we know that the need is great. We know that the opportunities are many, and to be able to work together with the municipalities, with local other organizations, churches, individuals, donors, businesses, to be able to make this happen is going to be critical. And so I leave with the final thought of just remember to continue to tell our story, connect it with us in any way that you can, and come out and do a home build and swing a hammer and really get to know what that feels like to be able to help folks realize that dream of home ownership. Anything else, Elliot, on your end?
Nothing else. No, I really appreciate being able to have the conversation with everybody tonight. Thank you.
With that, we will close up, and everyone have a great evening.